You got to understand your mind first. All these stories that your mind keeps telling you, don't buy all of that. When your mind says, I'm brave, I can do this, I can do that. The last thing you should do is trust your mind when your mind speaks with ignorance. Didn't your mind tell you that you'd be happy when you get married? Your mind told you that. Didn't your mind tell you that you'd be happy when you go on that roller coaster ride? When you go on that trip? When you get into that job? And see, where are you now? If marriage was so great and wonderful, why are you here on a Sunday morning? Go be with your spouse. This is not meant to insult you. This is meant to open your eyes. Don't fall for what your mind tells you when your mind speaks with ignorance. Ignorance is just that. Ignorance of the truth. Ignorance of what happiness truly is. It's the most disastrous weapon that you have, your own mind, when it speaks out of ignorance. Only a mind that speaks with wisdom can be trusted. Viswasa paramanyati is the meaning of that. That is the meaning. Only when it speaks with wisdom can the mind be trusted. But when the mind speaks with ignorance, it must not be trusted. The mind says, jump off a cliff. The mind says, see what things the mind says. Have you not seen people do crazy adventure stuff? They call it adventure. You look at that and go, good Lord, what are these people thinking about? There's a hungry lion in a cage and someone thinks it's a smart idea to put their hand into it. You've not seen that? Or there's an alligator and someone thinks it's a smart idea just to stick his finger to see whether they can provoke the animal. And how many times has such things gone wrong? And apparently YouTube is full of them. How people think it's fun, but they sometimes don't even live to tell the tale. But it just gets captured on camera, and so others realize, no, shouldn't try that. I remember a long time ago there was a TV series called 1,000 Ways to Die. And many of those were about things, interesting, fun things that people would do. Because their mind said, do it. Get on a slide and slide. How many times have those things gone wrong? Getting on a roller coaster, how many times have they gone wrong? Plenty of times, ladies and gentlemen, these things have gone wrong and people have suffered as a result of that. Racing? Just think about it for a second. People think it's a good idea to get into a car and race on the racetrack. They don't realize how much of a risk they're putting themselves through. It's fun for you to watch it for entertainment, but just think about the risk that the man puts himself in once he gets into the car. Formula One racing. As they drive at blazing speeds around those bends, just watching it, my heart skips a beat. Just imagine what those minds must be telling them to do. I used to enjoy adventure. Today, oh no. Because now I don't listen to everything my mind says. I realize today that those days my mind was full of ignorance and used to tell me to do this, that, and the other. And I was putting myself into unnecessary risks. Because the tiniest, the simplest mistake would have costed me my life. An opportunity I had to free myself from suffering. Go into the hospitals, ladies and gentlemen, and see there are many people there who are now paralyzed, bedridden, because of something that they did for fun. They never thought it would happen to them, but it did. I enjoyed mountain climbing. Those are things I used to do. It was fun. The excitement of it, the adrenaline rush, that's what I wanted. What a fool I was. One slip, one fall would be all it would take. And I wouldn't be here today. Just imagine if I died 10 years ago doing one of those things, what would I have lost? The Dhamma, right? Because the Dhamma was due to come to me 5 years later, 10 years later, if something had happened to me. That's why I say, don't trust everything your mind tells you. If it speaks out of ignorance, you must not trust it. And the problem is this: we are all born with ignorance. So unfortunately, there is the only voice that you can hear is an ignorant voice. So what's the remedy? How do you come out of that? If the only voice you hear is an ignorant voice, it's not like you have two voices, one with ignorance and one with wisdom. It's not like that. Until you have seen the Dhamma and begun to realize that happiness is not in these worldly pursuits, it's not in these adventure sports, it's not in driving a car down the street at blazing speeds. It's not in any of that. It's not in archery, it's not in horse riding, it's not in any of these things, but it's in discovering that happiness is within myself. Until the mind sees that, the mind is going to want to go after these worldly pleasures and pursuits. Now put all those adventure stuff to aside for a moment. Think about how much some people expend their valuable lives trying to start up and build up a business. There may be plenty of businessmen out there amongst you. I also wanted to do business at one point in my life. In fact, alongside my university life, I started something just on the side to see how it would go. And then very soon I got the Dhamma. And then I realized that's not what I wanted to do in my life. Perhaps if I had gone down that path, I would have become a successful businessman today. But then, what I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, is just imagine if you had invested your entire life in building up a business, right? Yes, by the end of your 50 years of existence, you might have built up an empire. Perhaps. Maybe a number of different businesses. Today it's a conglomerate. Perhaps. But then, what have you done for yourself? Your assets will be in the billions, if not in the millions. But what for yourself? You would have not moved one step closer to true happiness. If you read the biographies of people like Steve Jobs, you know what they say towards the end? This is how I built my business, this is how I built up my company, but at the end I realized that true happiness was not in any of that. Why do we have to keep going making the same mistakes over and over again until we realize that we are also just lab rats? Please remember this: if you don't have your own plan, you're in someone else's plan.